Go for it.
Okay. Okay. There's a delay on YouTube, maybe. Okay, here it is. Okay, good. Hello. Welcome to the selected. Okay. I see. There's a delay on YouTube, maybe. Okay, here it is. Okay, good. Hello. Welcome. Okay, it's terrible. Sorry. Start over. Welcome to the selected presentations, Culmination Project, Spring 2022. Welcome. So my name is Ryo Terao. I'm one of the faculty members in the Department of Entertainment Technology. And the course was taught by me and Professor Adam Wilson and Professor Tony Giovannetti. And today's technical, not assistant, actually technician, is Mr. Lucas Pipek, one of our CLTs. And let's actually hear from Professor John McCullough for the opening remarks. John? Professor McCullough.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for putting this together today. Just want to say for all of our students presenting, thank you guys so much for sharing your work with us today and with everyone watching. There are some really ambitious projects on display, some really accomplished final products we're going to get to see, and I think a really good demonstration of a lot of learning taking place, and really grappling with and understanding some tricky projects to come to grips with. So I hope everyone watching appreciates all the hard work and dedication that went into these projects, and thanks again everyone for sharing your projects with us today.
Thank you, John. Okay, so the first presenter is Miss Daniela Tomeno. Hi, Daniela.
All right, I'm gonna just share my screen. Okay. Okay, everyone can see it?
Yes.
All right, cool. So for my project, I did the audio for the Electroacoustic Improvisation Summit that it's also known as EIS, and it's just a show that the Entertainment Technology Department produces each spring. It has a pretty complex network audio system that in past years has delivered the audio inline and in person and for archival recordings. But this year they added a online streaming aspect to it, which we did over YouTube. My role in all of this was to oversee the installation and operation of the system as the crew chief, and to mix front of house, and to ensure that the documentation was solid for future use. So the first step of this project started at the end of the previous show that happened in Voorhees, which was A Cowboy from the Bronx. So we started our show process with striking that system. And then after that, Professor Huntington, who was my advisor for this, but he was also the system designer for the show, me and him met and we discussed what had to be done for EIS, because there was such a tight time crunch in between the two shows. I think we had like 4 actual class meetings in between Cowboy from the Bronx and EIS, but we also had to work around the lighting also. So we decided that we were going to have 2 spring break calls where we would actually install the system. So the next step of this was a shop prep in 14, which we did based off of Professor Huntington's input and patch sheet and his network system. We did a shop prep just because our system was so spread out. We had positions in the front of the theater. We had it in the sound booth for video streaming. We had a position in V21 for the audio streaming aspect of it. And we also had part of the system on stage. So having everything in one space made the setup a lot easier, and it also made troubleshooting if anything went wrong a lot easier, because instead of running around basically the basement of Voorhees, we were just walking around the room. So the first spring break call we had was with myself, Professor Huntington, and Cindy Vasquez, who was the monitor mixer for the show. And we did the soft patching of the boards as well as the patching of the Dante system. Yeah, that saved us a lot of time also, because once again, we weren't running around the entire basement to patch the show. So this is just the preliminary paperwork. So on the left side, we have like the input and patch sheet, and on the right is the network system. So at the end of the day where we did the Dante patching, me and Professor Huntington kind of made like a list of everything we had to do for the day when a lot of the crew came in, when we basically installed the system. This kind of like centralized everything, where if anybody wanted to know what was going to happen, they saw the list there. And it also kept us on track, so we could just check off as we went along. I would say that the installation day went really well, because we ended up adding more onto this list, and we actually got out of there pretty earlier than we intended to. So that went very well. So these are just some pictures from the show. On the top left, this is just the stage. So that's the sub, the Rio, and the wireless mic rack. Then in the right corner over here is where I was, and that's front of house, and that's the CL5. And then this PC just was for Dante controller and wireless workbench. Then in the bottom left corner is the video streaming room, which was the sound booth. And then in this corner was B21, which was the audio streaming room. So these are just pictures from the live stream. I just took screenshots of it, which was really useful. There was 5 acts. And then after the 5 acts, there was a conference where we had 4 wireless mics, and used the Dugan system to help mix that, because all 4 mics were on at all points. So this helped with, like, if someone moved, you wouldn't hear the person not talking, like all that extra noise, And then over here, there's just some screenshots of the crew during the show. So now I'm going to just show a clip. This one was my favorite act. So. Okay, so immediately after the show happened, we had kind of like a small strike where we just got rid of everything that was on stage. So that was the sub, the mic rack, and the Rio, just because the following day, the scenery team had to be able to take down all the soft goods that were hung. And then after that, at the next tech production class, we had a full strike of the system where we got rid of basically everything in there, including the PA. And that went very well. We got it done in one day, so that was cool. So after mixing and being the crew chief, my other position in this was basically like a documenter. So these are just 2 of the systems I made. It's the system diagram and then the signal flow. So there was 2 main reasons why documentation was so important in this process. The first one being it's networked audio. So the signal flow and how everything connects isn't as straightforward as, typical analog audio. So for troubleshooting purposes, if something went wrong, we would be able to look at these 2 documentations and kind of help narrow it down. And then the second reason is because EIS is done every year, the idea of these were to be able to give it to someone who doesn't have the most, the most intense background in audio, and they would still be able to set it up. So this is just the power runs. So we had some on stage, and then we had another power run for the speakers. And then this is the clear comm system. This was pretty important, and I think I went back to it a lot during the show, because there was times when like a few comms would go out, and we'd have to go directly to the base station, and it would help remind me of where everything was connected. So yeah. And then another aspect of this was we kind of did some speccing for possible upgrades of the network system. I narrowed it down to the Luminex brand. So yeah. So for the challenges in the process, so my own personal challenges was I'm not a mixer. I don't view myself as a mixer, and this kind of pushed me to kind of get over that. And I can definitely say that I feel a lot more comfortable on basic mixing, as well as digital patching, because we did have like 3 digital boards, and each one had like a different process to patch the mics in, but the ideas and the concepts are the same globally for all those boards. So I feel a lot more comfortable with that. Another issue or challenge was I had no previous network audio experience, and this definitely helped me to learn that, especially the documentation part of it really enforced like the system on me, and it kind of forced me to learn and understand what was going on. And then lastly, I had never led a crew before. So that was kind of a learning curve for me, because people were coming up to me asking questions. So that in turn made me always want to know what's going on and be able to give the right directions and answers, and be able to explain stuff to people who've never done audio before. So then some actual challenges we had during the show, I would say there was 2 main ones. It was the time crunch in between EIS and a Bronx Cowboy, and the scheduling of our crew, and if we would even have enough of a crew to run the show. That made us actually downsize the show a lot. Like, for example, we got rid of Monitor World, and instead we just mixed monitors from an iPad, and that was pretty seamless. And then one other issue we had during the show was at a point I turned on the gate instead of the compression, and that kind of got rid of the left channel. But I would say I kind of got saved from that because this was improv. So I don't think people noticed too badly that the left channel, there was no sound coming out of it. And there was also some technical issues with the interfaces that the performers were using. And yeah, and then they ended up figuring it out, but that was also another learning curve for me, where it was like sometimes you have to just sit back and let the performer figure out what's wrong with their own thing, and you can't fix everything. Yeah, so in the end, I feel like I definitely learned a lot from this process. I learned how to like lead a crew, management, getting better with audio. Yeah, and then this is just some of the crew from Strike. I'd like to thank Professor Huntington for advising me and teaching me so much about audio this semester. Of course, the tech production crew and Cindy Vasquez, who wasn't in tech production this semester, but basically was because of how many hours she spent with us. And of course, my family and friends for support. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is wonderful, Daniela. I had the opportunity to read your resume recently, and it looks impressive. And most of the experience is actually being part of the department, which is wonderful. You got a lot out of the department, and now you have all the skills. Congratulations. Let's take any comments or questions from the audience.
So first of all, I just want to say thank you for a job well done. For those of you who don't know, I curate the show every year, and often I perform on the show. And so just thanks from me, and then also on behalf of the artist, I've had good feedback from them, and the audio systems worked really well, and that came through in the audio capture, which they all now have in their hands, and they're all very happy with that. And they were also happy with the live show itself and how everything went. And I also want to say thanks for the really excellent documentation that you put together. I think that's going to be really useful going forward as we continue to do the show year after year. So great work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Daniela mentioned Professor Huntington quite a bit. Maybe he had something to say about this presentation, if he's available.
Yeah, so and for people who don't know, we did these presentations before, but in that one leading up to this, but yeah, I I commend Daniela on this project and doing a great job on it. And she's already got connections in the industry. And I think from she sort of leveraged what she's been doing here at school and going out. And I think, I wish her well in whatever she ends up doing. And I know she's going to do very well out in the whatever area of the professional world she wants to work in. So congratulations.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Oh, great. Any other comments, questions? Okay, if not, no.
I'll just say,
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, you were doing it. Just that, no questions really, but just the work looks really impressive, and also your documentation and the way you present it. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. Anyone else? Thank you, Danielle. Congrats. Okay. And the next presenter is Miss Jamie Unganta. Welcome.
Yeah, that would be me. Okay. So I'll share my presentation. My name is Ekemini. I'm from Emerging Media Technology in the Interactive Media concentration. And for my culmination, I made an immersive light installation titled And None of Us Ever Ended. So like a little background on like how I even got here. Like I've really grown to love immersive art. It's really about like kind of becoming one with a space and like bending reality and just kind of like transforming a room versus like having like an object or a sculpture that you're looking in at. And I made a light installation that combines origami with projection art. So the idea is that visitors would enter this like pitch black room, and then there'd be a flock of paper birds hanging suspended like in midair. And then like as the music would unfold, the projector would cut through the darkness and paint the birds with these like colorful trails of light, like kind of like painting brushstrokes on a canvas. And then like more backstory, I've spent the last few years admiring like experiences from artists from all over the place. And like one thing I really wanted to do before I graduated was build my own in person, because I've mostly been mocking them up or making proofs of concept. Like I've never like had it structured like in a room before. And then so I use this project to play with disorientation. And whether perception changes when you project an image onto like multiple fragmented surfaces that are like super close together instead of like one flat uniform surface like a wall. And this is the video of my project. Oh, no, don't play again. Don't play again. Okay, it was in the way of the arrow. So my inspiration for this, like specifically, versus just like the genre in general, when I like finally realized like, okay, like projection art is like probably gonna be my thing. Like it's the main thing that gets me excited. I got this like cheap portable like handheld projector off of eBay, and then like the moment I got it, I opened it up in my living room and started just like pointing it at like all the different walls. So like I would see like what it looked like pointing at a corner, or like pointing at like two walls like in the hallway that are like at different distances. And then like while I was like spinning to go to another wall, it got caught on like the fake flowers we have in the middle of the living room. And like that was almost more interesting than like playing with all the other surfaces, because like you had like multiple layers, and like it was kind of like you were transforming the object, and then if you had a wall behind it, it would throw these shadows. And then like even like having like your hand or like part of your face in there was like a really interesting moment, I was just playing with popular sketches off of openprocessing.org. So the one that's on this isn't mine. But like I was basically just like, I have to come back to this idea and like flesh it out some more, and then like maybe do something like really big with like the resources I have in the space at college. So then moving on to actually planning it, I eventually went with origami birds. I was thinking of origami flowers at first. And then I did a bunch of different sketches of like formations based on the way like giant groups of birds kind of like fly in midair. Like they kind of morph and shape into all these really weird configurations. And it's always really cool to watch. So I eventually ended up with this sketch over here of like kind of like a semicircle, like an arc where you could stand in the middle if you wanted to come up close, or you could watch it from afar. And then like to really figure out precisely where I was going to hang everything, just so that I wouldn't have like a mismatch between what was in my head and what I made. I mocked it up in Unity with a free 3D model of an origami bird, so I could get every single bird's like rotation and height and distance to each other. So that's how that came out. And then for coding it, I made the visuals with processing, and that's a creative coding application built on Java that we learn in like early MTech classes. And then like the movement of all those particles is actually driven by something called like a flow field. So it's kind of like if you had like a chessboard and then every single square in it like had an arrow that was facing a certain way, and then all those arrows are forces. So like it'll act like a river when you put like a dot on it. It'll just, each arrow will push it in whatever direction and until it makes its way off screen and expires. And then I'm also randomly generating this field every time the code runs using something else called Perlin noise, which is more complicated, but like it's basically like random number, like generating random numbers, but like skewed to a certain like point. So that like it's hard to explain, I'm so sorry. But like it's a lot like generating worlds in Minecraft. Like you get a new world every single time you play. And then drawing a transparent black background over each frame could cause the particles to like leave trails like stars. Like in this image, like they're, oops, sorry. In this image, I'm not drawing that frame, but like in some parts of the video, like you could see like there were longer lines that were stretching instead of just singular dots. And that was from using transparency. And then for building it, I folded about 23 origami birds. And like this was the hardest part for some reason. I had to thread them one by one with this like clear nylon thread, and then fix them to like these 3 large wire grids that I had hanging from the ceiling. And like for getting the specific places that I got in Unity, I had to convert the XYZ coordinates to feet. And then also like take pictures of like the grids in Unity versus like the real life grids and like overlay the 2 of them so that I could see specifically where to tie each bird. And then like the biggest challenge from this part, because like coding was a smooth process really, like every once in a while I learned something about like blend modes or like pulling from arrays and stuff. But like the biggest challenge physically was getting all of the birds to like stay facing upright. Cause like depending on how you balance it, like if it's not in equilibrium, it'll just kind of like tip over. So like getting them to stay upright and then getting them to face one direction instead of just kind of like spinning around constantly. So that was like a big challenge in both like rigging and like balance and figuring everything out. And then at the end, I used a 1080p projector and had to also learn about projectors and specs and like what would be the best fit for this room so that I had enough space to pull it back and cover the entire space. And then I was projecting my processing visuals. And yeah, this is what it looks like with the lights on. This is what it looks like with the lights off. And then I've just got a full photo gallery. At some point I had this mocked up like in my house. So you can kind of see the door frame and the one on this one. But then eventually I got to use V318 and properly have them all set up and get some good video. And I'm still getting good video. And yeah, I think that's about it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very good, impressive presentation, and I feel nostalgic to see origami cranes actually. Okay, well, let's take questions and comments.
So Kemeny, I've seen this now, I think 4 times, your presentation, 3 or 4 times, but I do have something new to say to you. You might want to investigate simplex noise as opposed to Perlin noise because it'll produce the same effect, but it's computationally more efficient. So the complexity of Perlin noise is 2 to the n minus 1, and the complexity of simplex is n squared. So it's it's cheaper computationally to perform. I think there are some other benefits too, some visual benefits that you might reap from using simplex noise as well.
Cool. Okay. Because yeah, I definitely need help optimizing it. At some point, it got like really like 10 frames per second. And I was looking through the whole code and I was like, what can I cut? What can I change? And that might help a little bit.
Yeah, it'll definitely shave off some CPU cycles and you'll get the same effect.
Okay.
I can also say that I should say the same thing that I said in the last few comments, the last few times I've seen this, which is it's really great. And again, I really like your particle system. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, with your talent and skills like this, what are your plans after you graduate?
Okay, because like I'm looking at being a creative technologist. And then I'm getting to do an internship now that's specifically in creative technology. So I'm gonna see how that feels. But like there's also like I could try an artist residency. I could try just like traveling, doing commissions. I don't like I'm wide open at this point, whatever sounds right.
Very nice. Any other comments, questions, suggestions?
I have one more question. So I've seen the presentation 3 times, not 4, and I've made a lot of comments already. But I've just said before, I'm impressed, Kemeny, just the way that you were able to take this very large process and project and really break it down into all these discrete steps, including mocking it up digitally, modeling it out, but then also getting into that phase where you really had to work hands-on with the materials and projection and discover all the other issues and see how the physical installation itself can be even trickier than the digital technology portion. I haven't asked you yet. I'm curious about the title, and you can decline to answer, but I'm curious about, and none of us ever ended in that choice.
Yeah, it's like it's not the same song that's playing in the demo video, but there's this other song called like Flight of the Navigator, and it has this part to it. Like the whole vibe of it was very like he pinned down this emotion that's like really hard to describe otherwise. Like, and then I found out later that like it was about somebody who died, but I thought it was just about like I don't know, ascension, reaching nirvana, like feeling free and like untethered and weightless and stuff. And he had this lyric that was like, I talked to some birds, I fell in love again, and none of us ever ended. Everything just kept going and going and going. And I was like, that's cool. I like that. So I kept that, but I know it seems like disconnected because like I'm using a completely different song. So I don't know if I'll keep it.
Thank you. Thank you. So I just want to point out that we are streaming live on YouTube today. And so there's applause and comments in the YouTube chat for both speakers so far. So congratulations. And any other questions or comments?
I just had one quick question or comment. Early on in your presentation, you mentioned part of this project was to kind of look at the differences between a motion for like a flat surface versus a 3D surface. Did you get any takeaways from that? Were you able to kind of measure that in any way?
I didn't like
Anecdotally?
set it up like a like I should have done like an experiment more like you have like a control and like the thing you're actually changing. But like definitely like in person, like in 3D, like it kind of plays with the depth of it. That was the biggest takeaway I had with it. Because like the visuals will still be the same, more or less, like whether it's on a wall versus whether it's on a bunch of objects, but you get like these like different like angles and curvature and like variations through it. And then like combined with sort of like starting from like pitch black, where it's kind of hard to tell how far things are like away, like just like bumping into things when you're walking in the middle of the night. It like the depth was a really cool thing to play with. That was my biggest part.
Have you thought of adding a second projector from a different angle with different content?
I could try that to like maybe they could be playing different videos too and like overlapping.
Then you
I
can
like that.
experiment with, different colors on different surfaces and shadows and
Yeah,
fun
I'll
stuff.
try that.
A nice project.
Thank you. Thank you for V318.
Okay, thank you. All right. So I see many people clapping on YouTube and saying congratulations and how creative you are, and both of you, and wonderful. Okay, so thank you. So let's move on to the next presenter. So we are supposed to, hoping to have some like one or two speakers from MTech and who worked on the game called Sirena. And depending on how quickly they can finish their final exam today, there may be two presenters today. But I see one of them, Isaiah. Hi, I've never seen your face before, so it's good to see you. Let's welcome.
You saw me last time when we met in person.
It was so quick.
That's true. It was
all
quick.
right. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm the only one here because my rest of the group they have finals, so
And you don't.
I don't know.
You're skipping one.
No, I'm not skipping anything. It's just that I had a final earlier and I'm done with that one.
Good.
I think that's most of my finals done already. I'm so glad.
All right, great.
But
Now take it away.
yes. So let me. Oh, don't skip that. Okay. Move this over here. You guys see if I do this?
Yeah, I see it.
Nice. Okay. So our game is Sirena. It means mermaid in Spanish. The game was developed by me, Brandon Castillo, Jordan De La Rosa, Jonathan Clement, and Edgar Alejandro. We kind of have our own name for our group called Divergent Minds. We came up with it last year. And I'm gonna show you guys the trailer just straight off the bat. I pause. And unmute. So hopefully you guys can hear and see that, right?
We see it, but no sound.
Oh, yeah, okay. Because I always forget I have to share audio. How do you do that again?
Depending on.
You have to unshare, and when you share, it's gonna be at the bottom.
I think I just got it. Do you guys hear it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me see if I can up the quality. go. See that now. So that was our trailer. Can I get out of full screen, please? There we go. So my role in this was I was the level design. And so I kind of just worked on just the environment, the post-processing, the lighting. We made this game in Unity, but I tend to use other programs like Blender for specific 3D models, Adobe Illustrate. I forgot which one that one is. I use Photoshop for drawing, for designing concept maps, and just simple things about me. Emerging media technologies. I started focusing more on level design, but back in like 2019, about 2 years in. And our game is just a low poly adventure exploration game where you play as a character named Duna, and she's just exploring the ocean, discovering these hidden areas that has been untouched, and you kind of learn about the environment and what's going on within the world. So when we first started, we all decided on what to do, and then I had to get reference images just to get an idea of how exactly we wanted our levels to look like. And so I found some images of just like some seaweeds on the ground, some underwater caverns, stuff like that. And then here is the environment concept art. So this was the first level that we did, or that I drew, and then it's basically just an underwater cavern, and it has like some plants and stuff and rocks. And then this is also the concept for level 2. We didn't really get to that because we didn't have enough time, unfortunately. But these were the concepts that I was asked to draw. And then these were the puzzles. So our game has puzzles, like there's like a puzzle at each level. And so Brandon came up with the idea for the puzzles. And then I worked with him to decide like how exactly they'll look, where each puzzle piece will be placed, the aesthetics, stuff like that. And then after that, we got to prototyping. So I went into Unity, created scenes, and then I started gray boxing. So I put all these objects around, a lot of easy primitive objects, just to get a feel of like what everything would look like, how you interact, where you have to go. And then after that, I started working on getting the actual assets into the game. So in the first level, as you saw, there's a temple. And so I got this package that came with like a pre-built temple that's like modular. So I took all the modular pieces and then I created a whole layout with it, which turned out to be this one. And then after that, after I felt like it was good, I started adding the terrain. So like the flat beds in the ocean, the rocky mountain, like the rocky cliffs and stuff like that. And then after that, I started adding foliage. So I added a bunch of grass, I added some seaweeds, and then I started adding corals, and then started adding particle effects attached to those as well. Unfortunately, I wanted to add like a lot more. I want to like go crazy on the foliage, but unfortunately, if you add too much, it starts causing performance issues. So I wanted at least to be I wanted it to be a position where like there's a lot of foliage and it looks great, but it also runs well, so it's like able to run on like whatever computer anybody has. And then after that, I started working on the lighting. So lighting is like one of my favorite things to work on, because I feel like lighting is like, you can't have a good looking game without good lighting. So that was one of the main focuses that I wanted to put as much effort into, because previously I never really had that much experience making like actual proper lighting. So I wanted to go full on with this. And so I had a meeting with my advisor, Hajani, and one tip he told me was to use this technique called backlighting, which is instead of using like real-time lights, you instead use you instead take a plane and then create in like an emissive material. So it's like glowing. And with that glowing material, you would bake the light that it emits onto the surface of the objects themselves. And that saves a ton on performance. It helps make the game look a lot better. And it like streamlines the process. And then once I got that down, I started working on particles because the game it didn't really look like an ocean. So it just looked like a cave that was blue. So I tried using particles to help differentiate it. So I put like some bubbles and stuff like that like stream up to the surface. I use like little dust particle systems so that way, like, well, as you're swimming around, you see these little like microscopic dust particles and stuff like that. And it helped a lot improve the visuals. And then these are just some more stuff that I added. So light particles. One of the rooms themselves, the room itself has these particles that like emit a light onto it. And so that helped make the room look a lot better. As you can see, those particles, bubbles, and then God rays. God rays make lights look a lot better. And so I wanted to like focus the skylight to focus all the light onto this one specific point, which is a temple. And so using God rays helps like visualize that. And then as I said earlier, we had a difficulty with like timing, like some things took too long. So we weren't able to like fully get to our second level. But as you can see here, I at least had something to show. So basically it's supposed to be like an oil tanker that's like spilling oil into the environment. And you're supposed to like swim into it and like understand why it's happening and like how it got there. And so I tried putting some rocks. The oil tanker itself was 3D modeled by Brandon. So maybe if he can make it in time, maybe he'll be able to show it. And then this is just a little trailer that I made for the stuff that I did. Just little time lapses. So as you can see, there's all the particle systems, the bubbles, the fishes, and stuff like that. That stuff was added in by Jordan. He wanted to work on the fishes, and then he also worked on sound. As you can see, these were the puzzles that Brandon helped me come up with, and then I just specifically put them. And as you can see here, as I was talking about earlier, the little particles emit their own lights. And yeah, as you can see, the lights beaming down on it, temple. I think that is it. And that's a little cave that you come out of. I think that's all from my presentation. And thanks to everyone, my team. I would not be able to do any of this without them. It's been a pleasure working with them, and we're probably going to continue working on stuff together. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Isaiah. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Maybe you can stop sharing your screen. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was back in January, I was very happy to learn that you guys are creating this game and it's not about fighting or war, and it's and
Yeah.
also even your voice today sounds very meditative, I thought, and it's very beautiful. All right, let's take questions or suggestions or comments.
So Isaiah, I'm curious how you develop the plants. Were there did you do them one at a time? Did you do them in bulk? Did you develop a procedure to generate the plants?
Unity has this. The great thing about Unity is that there's a lot of packages available online, so that helps streamline the process. There was this one package that allows you to like scatter. Pretty much, it's kind of like painting 3D objects onto another 3D object, and so the terrains themselves, they're like huge 3D objects, so it makes it a lot easier because they have a lot of flat surfaces. And so with one of the packages, you get like a brush, and then you choose what material, what 3D objects you want to use on the brush, and then it helps you, and you're kind of like painting grass onto the floor. And so that's kind of how I did it, because it would have been a lot harder, like putting down each individual grass and then trying to align them properly. And so that's one of the processes that I used.
I wonder about that package. Well, it sounds like it's multi-purpose. You can use it to paint any 3D object onto any other object. Is that
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So
So, regarding plants, there's this really cool class of sort of procedures for generative procedures called Lindenmeyer systems. And you could use them to, you can generate really accurate and like very realistic looking plants using these very simple instructions. It might be something to look into. I thought what you did with plants was really cool. I also wonder if you might not, if you formalize your plant structures that way, you might be able to squeeze a little bit more CPU performance as well, and you could actually
yeah,
put more plants like you wanted to.
that was one of my challenges. Like certain areas would not have plants because it's like if I kept adding, it would hinder the game. So I had to like kind of like strategically decide where I would put all these plants so that way it would look good. I didn't want to put plants on like a corner of the map that you're probably not going to go to. And so that was kind of my compromise.
Yeah, Google procedural plant generation and L systems, capital L dash systems. And I think you'll find some useful information. You might even, I'm not suggesting that you have to write your own L system procedures from scratch. There might be some things that already use L systems. Basically, they're sort of fractal systems in a way that you could employ. And might be able to get a little bit better performance. I also like the way the plants were moving, and I just want to say that I think the general vibe that you were going for was totally successful.
Thank
it
you.
was a really immersive world.
This was definitely my probably hardest project to do because I wanted to put as much effort as I can. And I'm glad the way it came out. It's definitely a portfolio piece that I'm keeping.
Very good. So there are some comments on YouTube. There's a comment about lighting from one of our lighting faculty members, Professor Giovanetti. He wrote, "I found lighting impressive, and the teamwork seems to have worked well together." So it's a great
lighting is definitely very important in my opinion. I feel like you can't really have a good looking game without good lighting.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks to Hajni because he gave me a lot of tips. So I'm glad I had him as an advisor.
Right. Any other comments?
Yeah, you really nailed the lighting. The beams coming from like the water surface looked really good.
Yeah. That's something I really wanted to perfect. I literally spent days just Googling what is the best method to make God rays and how to perfectly align them and all that. So something I wanted to put a lot of effort into.
Isaiah, congratulations. It looks really beautiful and really strange in a good way, especially the lighting really sticks out, but the puzzle areas also really stick out to me. They're just really surreal and strange. And it's really great to see the collaboration with your group and how well it looks like you've been working together. And also just seeing, as I've more recently become your academic advisor, seeing how proactive you've been in really trying to take advantage of everything, not just in this program, but courses offered outside of our program as well, to really get as much as you can in terms of modeling and animation. And you mentioned Hasni, and that's also really great to hear. And I wonder if there's anything you want to maybe say about that journey, if there's any classes or professors that have been particularly inspiring and helpful, or if there's a lot of independent research you were doing to kind of get to this point.
I guess another professor, he's not here, but Chung. I feel like I've only had like 2 classes with him, but like the stuff that I've learned from his classes were like things that like stick with you. Like he doesn't just teach me how to make a game, he like teaches you the important fundamentals of it. And it's like each specific part. So it's like not just like the fundamentals of the coding, then the fundamentals of like the world building, the level designs, the visual stuff like that. That I really like try to take that to heart, and it really helped out. So those two definitely helped me a lot these 4 years.
Thank you. Great comments. Any other comments? Okay. Azayas, do you see any of your teammates now attending, or are they still taking the final?
No,
Okay.
I really don't know if they'll make it. It's like
Okay.
they have like long finals.
Yeah.
I wish I could present their stuff as well, but a lot. It'll take
Yeah.
way too much time.
Yeah. Well, if they show up later, maybe they can still.
Yeah, they show up later. Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Thank you, Azayas, and congratulations. Okay.
Thank you very much.
And the next presenter is, I know her camera is on now, Maria Marzand.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So good afternoon. My name is Maria. For my Culmination project, I was the video engineer for a live stream performance of the band Trilogy. So the performance itself was streamed live on YouTube, and I collaborated with my friend and fellow student Nitu Singh. I was in charge of all the video aspects of the live stream, and Nitu was in charge of the audio aspects. So, as I mentioned earlier, I was in charge of all the video aspects for the project. So what that means is I was in charge of getting things like the cameras, the video switcher, the encoder, and the multi-view monitor. And I was also in charge of creating the graphics for the live stream as well. My advisor for this project was Professor Saad Faruqi. I want to thank him because he was a huge help in developing my video system. And he also helped me a lot with the graphics as well. So this is just the calendar for the project. There are some dates that I want to highlight. So I've been working on this since January, so since before the semester started. So I initially met with Saad to discuss my project and also to ask him to be my advisor. As you can see here on the 11th of March, we had our first load-in. We had our load-in and our first tech rehearsal. And then on the 18th, we had our second tech rehearsal. And then the actual show itself happened on March 25th. So this is just my very first draft of my video system diagram. Looking back on it, I definitely made it way more complicated than it needed to be. I had drafted this like before we got into room 314, which is where Nitu and I were set up. And in room 318 was where the band was actually performing. So I drafted this beforehand, and I had 3 cameras initially, but it wasn't until the load-in that I realized I didn't have enough people to operate cameras. So I had to cut it down. So this is just my finalized video system diagram. So as you can see, I only had 2 cameras and the switcher and all that. I'll discuss my gear coming up. So the most important aspect was obviously the video switcher. The video switcher I used was an ATEM television TV studio switcher by Blackmagic Design. One thing I forgot to mention, this project had no budget. I borrowed everything from City Tech. So shout out to them because I definitely couldn't afford any of this gear on my own. So yeah, the ATEM TV Studio Switcher by Blackmagic Design. I initially wanted to use the TriCaster, but unfortunately it was being used by Tech Production, and I believe they're using it for their live news show, so I couldn't use that. Also, the TriCaster was in NAM in the TV studio, so I couldn't, I didn't want to get permission to like move the gear in between buildings. There was another switcher that I was supposed to use, but the Ethernet port of the switcher was broken, so I ended up having to settle for this switcher. So as you can see, the switcher is like, it's not like it's like not the most advanced switcher. There are no buttons or anything on the switcher itself to control the live stream. So how I controlled the actual stream was I had to download this software onto my computer, and that was how I was able to control the live stream. So as you can see, this would be like the live view, it's the preview. Over here, I would throw up the graphics that I wanted to show. And then this is just where I would put, this is the media section. So this is just where I put things like the lower thirds, the intro, the credits, things like that. So yeah, this is just me in room 314 setting up the switcher. And I also have a monitor here. So this is actually a picture of me like testing out the switcher. So as you can see here, it's kind of hard to see, but that is the actual program on my laptop. And I'm just here with my camera operator trying to figure out how to use the software. So like I said before, I could only use 2 video cameras. So the 2 video cameras I used was a Marshall Genlock camera, and that camera was static, meaning that I never moved it. I didn't have an operator and I never moved it. And I used it for wide shots of the band. So this is just a screenshot from the live stream. As you can see, this is just, all 3 band members together. It's just a wide shot. This is another screenshot, as you can see all of them together. So the next gear I used was a JVC video camera. I don't remember the model of the camera, so that's why I didn't include it. But this camera was actually dynamic, meaning I had an operator for this camera, and I would have my operator, give me things like medium shots of band members, or close-ups of, let's say, their fingers strumming or anything like that. So this is just another screenshot from the live stream. As you can see, it's a medium shot of one of the performers. This is just another medium shot. As you can see, a solo shot. So the next bit of gear I used was a video encoder. So I used the Aja Hello video encoder for my stream. So what an encoder does is it converts raw video files to digital files. In my case, it converted my camera signals into digital files so that it could be streamed on YouTube. The encoder also had its own software that I had to download onto my computer. I had to input the IP address of the computer that I was using in order for the stream to work. I also had to go on YouTube into the stream settings to get the stream key and then copy and paste it into the streaming file of the encoder. So yeah, this is just me setting up the encoder. Again, this is in room 314. The next bit of gear I used was a Marshall multi-view monitor. So like I said, the JVC video camera had a camera operator, and I didn't want my operator to rely on the viewfinder because it was kind of small and I didn't think it was all that accurate. So I just set up a monitor onto a stage box that was next to where the cameras were set up so that she could have a better view of her shots. The next bit of gear I used was a Samsung television. So this television was in room 318, and I got permission to use it. And so we ended up bringing it into 314, and Nitu and I used it to monitor like our audio and also our video and things like that. So this is just another picture, as you can see. So for the graphics, I just created like the title for the stream, credits, and lower thirds, and I did all of that using Adobe Photoshop. After I had made the graphics, I had exported them as PNG files, and for whatever reason, the switcher wasn't accepting. It wasn't like showing up properly. So I asked my advisor Saad, and he helped me figure out that I had to export the files as TIF files so that they would come up properly. So these are just some of the other, as you can see, these are the band members. I also created lower thirds for the song titles. So yeah, this is just a small clip from the live stream. I hope it's not too loud. Let me know if it is, but yeah. Okay, so this next clip is the same moment from the previous clip. So the same moment from the live stream from the last clip that I showed you, but in room 318. So okay, so there's something that I kind of have to explain. So as you can see, this is Nichu, she's mixing the audio, and then this is me, and this is my friend Fatma. So initially, I was supposed to be the video switch operator. I was just gonna do the switching, but my advisor Saad let me know that we needed a director to like count down and inform everyone when the stream was live and things like that. And I was just gonna do that myself. I was just gonna do all that myself, but Saad was like, that's way too much for one person to do. So I asked my friend Fatma to be the video switch operator. And I believe in, yeah, so this is me, and this is Fatma. As you can see, she's controlling the stream using my laptop. So what I would do is I would tell Fatma when to throw up the lower thirds and things like that. And as you can see, I'm talking on the phone here because we didn't have time to set up a mic between me and my camera operator. So I had to actually call her on the phone and relay like information to her that way. So like I would call her, ask her to give me a medium shot of, let's say, the drummer, and then I would have Fatma switch to the wide shot so that so that would give my camera operator time to set up the shot. And when the shot was done, I would tell Fatma to switch back to the other camera. So yeah, that's how that worked. Okay, so I faced quite a bit of challenge with this project. So, and I had quite a few issues with the gear. So like I mentioned before, the initial switcher I wanted to use, the Ethernet port was damaged, so I couldn't use it. I also had problems with graphics. So if I go back to where it shows, so as you can see here, I have like the instruments that they're playing as well as their name. Well, on the day of the live stream, I was informed that the musicians would be swapping instruments throughout the performance. So I had to quickly remake the graphics to remove the instrument they were playing. So that made more sense, obviously. Another issue I had that I mentioned before was the switcher was not accepting the graphics that I had made, and I had to troubleshoot with SOD about that. And just some last minute issues that we faced. So on the day of the stream, they told us that, you know, it's hard to explain, but basically like they were kind of late and we were scared that they weren't going to show up, but obviously they did. So that was a relief. So these are just some of my final thoughts. So I think the stream itself was a massive success. Like obviously we had issues, but I mean, there's always issues, especially when it comes to like live streaming. I also want to say that this project was very helpful for me because I had never done anything like this. This is the first time I ever did anything like this. And for whatever reason, I didn't think I had the capability to do something like this. So it's kind of corny to say, but like I really feel surprised with myself because I never in a million years thought I could like put together a working video system and things like that. So I'm kind of proud of myself for being able to pull all this off. I just want to thank a couple of people. So I want to thank my advisor, Saad Faruqi. I want to thank Neetu Singh, Fatma Okili, Ying Lian Liu, Daniela Tamino, and Jose Soriano. I also want to thank Professor Robinson because he also helped me with the networking as well. So thank you to him. And yeah, so that was my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Maria. Congratulations. Very impressive.
Thank you.
I feel like this was a small venue, but the big production. Very, very nice to see all the students and the faculty being involved in this project. Okay, well, let's take some comments and questions from the audience.
So there was this, the band was in 318 and you had all your gear in 314. Is that you were in separate
Yes.
rooms? Okay. So they were in 318 and you had everything set up in 314. And did you have to run cables and stuff for that? I might have
Yeah.
missed that part.
Yeah, we had to run like 100 feet of cables, I believe. If you go on my e-portfolio on Open Lab, there's a bunch of behind the scenes pictures and you can see all that there if you'd like. But yeah, we definitely had to run lots of cables.
Is this, and I'm just curious, why did you have to set up, I guess because 318 isn't really wired in, there's some future project to make that, to sort of wire that in with all the other spaces in and around Voorhees, is that correct?
We couldn't set up our gear in room 318 because room 318 is real tiny. It's super small in there. So that's why we didn't set up everything. Initially, I was gonna set up in the hallway, but I probably would have disturbed a bunch of people if I did that. So but yeah.
That's quite a lot of work for you all to do. I hope the band appreciates your efforts.
Yeah, they did it for free. So it was crazy. We had to buy them pizza and stuff, but yeah.
Right.
I'll talk more when I'm sure after Neetu's presentation, but one thing I think that you did on this project is I always tell students, what's impressive to me is when something that's done well, it doesn't really matter how big it is. So like a big project that's kind of sloppy and doesn't really achieve its goals isn't that impressive to me. But when you do something like this and it comes off very polished and everything, I really commend you and Neetu both for that. And I think the reason for that is you embrace the process. Like you all were talking about this months in advance, not like, oh, we want to do this thing next week, but you really thought about it and you had time throughout that whole process to really think through like what are the challenges, what are the things we're going to have, and like, you know, there's classes around that space, all these type of things that came up. And because of your planning far enough in advance, you're able to, you know, pull it off successfully, and really everything went smoothly. And I think people don't really understand that that is the case because you did so much prep work. So I commend you for that and the whole way that the project came out. So congratulations.
Thank you. We couldn't have done it without you and Sahad.
Oh, actually, Sad is here. All
Yeah,
right.
I just want to congratulate you. And I also wanted to bring up that we had also discussed using StreamYard, but you ended up going with the more conventional video system approach. So how do you think that benefits you compared to using something like StreamYard?
So I think that using the video switcher was more, it was better because it was like, how can I explain it? It's like hands-on. Like I actually got to use the actual gear, like, and with StreamYard, from what I understood, it would have been like a massive delay, and I don't think I would have learned as much if I had just used StreamYard, because I have used StreamYard before for tech production. So I feel like I was better off with the switcher because I got to learn more, even if the switcher that I used wasn't all that advanced. But yeah, I think I benefited overall just sticking to the video switcher.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
I was just going to say that this was a good setup because you did a miniature version of what a real video shoot would be like for something where there's a band in an arena doing the live stream, typically set out in a truck somewhere in the parking lot with all the video studio with fiber going to the building. So this experience of doing it and not being able to see the performers, I think was actually a good trial if you want to do something like this in the future.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sure you will be doing something like this more and more in the future. Now that you have gained so much confidence and experience. Any other comments? If not, Maria, maybe you can introduce the next presenter, your collaborator.
Okay, so next up is my friend Nitu, and she's gonna present the audio aspect of this live stream.
Hello, I'm Nitu. And this is my culmination project, Trilogy, a live stream concert. This concert took place on March 25th, 2022. I would like to start off this presentation with a small clip from the concert. A dog-leg plate, all your plates on my plate. No, I'm not paralyzed, but I seem to be struck by you. I want to make you move because you stand and still. If your body matches what your eyes can do, you'll probably move right through me on my way to you. I hold out for one more drink. Okay, so that was a snippet. The description of my project is really simple. It was just a live stream concert done to YouTube featuring a rock band named Trilogy. My role in this project was that I was the audio engineer and the sound system designer. I was also in charge of managerial tasks and planning everything to make the show happen. And on this project, I partnered with Maria, who was in charge of all of the video aspects. I briefly want to start off by saying who Trilogy is. Trilogy is the band of former student Nick Malios, and the band consists of guitar, bass, and drums, and vocals, of course. This is the equipment. This is what my shop order looked like. This is what I used to execute my project. I broke up the equipment into different categories. One piece of equipment that I felt was really important for this project was the Yamaha CL5 console. It's a really popular board in the industry, so I really wanted to gain fluency on it. So I made sure it was available for my project. I borrowed all this gear from City Tech, so the budget was $0. This is my stage plot. The
to be rooms. To the left, we have room 318, and on the 314, and on the right, we have 318. 314 was our control room. So this is where me and Maria set up our controls. And 318 was just how the gear was positioned and what the stage area looked like. This is my system diagram. So on the left, I have all of my inputs going into the stage box via XLR cables. And out of the stage box, I have a talkback speaker, which I use to communicate with the band. Right at the back of the stage box, I had the Cat5e cables, which I ran out to room 314, which then went straight into my mixer. Also in my mixer, I have how I did my pre and post show music. I have talkback mic and monitors for me. Also, I sent the audio to the stream through the digital out port on the board. So that went to the switcher. This is my input output list. This was a very helpful list to have as I had my friends helping me patch up the show. I had just the channel, source, mic, stand, any other important notes that were relevant. I also have outputs that came locally out of my board as well. So this was just everything. I mentioned I had pre and post show music. So I had QLab running on my Mac. I made this group of songs, which was set to keep going until manually stopped. This ensured that music would keep playing when we had the pre-wait before the show started and after for the credits. This is my calendar. This is the timeline that my project lived through. As you can see, my project was approved in November, and due to the uncertainty of COVID, the project and its location was up in the air. So that really worried me. And in January, I got the permission to use room 318. Another important date I would like to point out is the load-in and tech rehearsal days. On these days, the crew and I would go in and patch up the show, test levels, just make sure our system was set up the way that we wanted it. And on these days, we figured out a lot of things. So on that troubleshoot session, the talkback feature I mentioned, we could not figure out how to patch it, get it working, coming out through the speaker. So with guidance from Professor Huntington and hours of research, we managed to get that done. So I was really thankful that we had those rehearsal days. These are some photos from the performance and the entire process. So this is just a picture of me at soundcheck. This is an overview of what the Yamaha CL5 board looks like. This was what my board looked like in the very early phase of my project. I just have some channels, input channels patched up, and that's pretty much it. I mentioned that we ran 100 foot of cable down the hallway, so we had to use cable ramps as this was a public space, and we also wanted to protect our cables. This is what the stage box that was in room 318 looked like. I have all of my input channels. I have that one thing on the output channel. So this is what room 318 looked like after one of our practice sessions. This was actually the day before the show. I have the mixer covered out on the table. I have some stands in the corner. This was taken on the day of the show. Here I am patching up my speakers and connecting everything to power. This was my setup. This picture shows me plugging in my monitor speaker locally into the board. This is what my completed setup looked like. I have my monitors on top of the racks, my board ready to go. This was taken on one of the practice days. Here, I'm just making sure all my faders are down. I was very particular about the placement of the microphones. That really plays a big factor in how the sound is picked up. So this was on the day of the show. I'm in front of the bass amplifier fixing the microphone. This was taken on the day of the show. We're just loading up everything, setting everything into place. As you can see, I am at the drum kit, really picky about how I wanted the mics to be. Another thing I would like to mention is that we put the stands and the corresponding cable together, so that made load-in really easy. Here is that drum set completely mic'd up. As you can see, I labeled the stands as well as the cables for ease of patching. So this is another picture from soundcheck. I put some notes on the board, stuff that I should remember while mixing, and I wrote out the set list here. This is when the show was happening. These are our advisors sitting next to us. This was taken during the show. Here you can have a better view of what my board looked like when it was ready for the concert. So right here in the middle, I have DCAs, which is just a channel, a group of channels. I'm on the EQ window as I prefer to mix on that window as I can monitor the frequencies better. This is also another picture taken during the show. As you can see, my meter is very high in the red as this is rock and roll. So the results are that the live stream went well. Things happen in a live setting that you always can't account for. One of those things was that we could hear the audio when we were in the pre-wait phase before the concert started. So I then had to mute everything, then abruptly unmute, which definitely, frazzled me for a bit, but I managed to recover. Another thing is that this project differed from my proposal. I originally pitched for this project to be offsite, but gear availability would be really hard to acquire. And I'm just glad that we managed to have it on campus, which was how I wanted it to be in the first place. So yeah, we found another way to make things happen, and I'm pleased. I learned a lot of things during this incredible process. I learned how to build a sound system and the many aspects to take note of. I never really had a lot of experience with system work, and I definitely learned a lot through this. Last minute changes were a thing that we had to account for. I noticed that we were told that we had a acoustic guitar that we never talked about before. So that was something I had to create a whole channel for. I learned how to manage a project, especially with COVID protocols going on. I had to make sure that all the band members had their cleared for before they were able to come into the building. And I definitely learned a lot with mixing. I encountered a lot of things that I realized, I should have done differently, or, this is how I have to do it. Also, having the band on the day of the show, that's how it is in the real world. I had to learn and put myself in those shoes of what it actually is like to work a day as a mixer in a field. This show could not happen without the help of all of these incredible people who are listed here. Shout out to my advisor, John Huntington. I really could not have done this without him. I would have been lost. And John Robinson, John McCullough, all of them helping me acquire the rooms and the space and have everything that I need to make this show happen. I want to thank Maria for partnering with me. I know it wasn't always easy and we were very confused at times, but I'm just so happy that the show turned out the way how we both wanted it to. I want to thank all my friends who took their time out to make all those practice sessions and help us and be there for anything that we needed. So I'm just grateful and thankful that this project was able to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Neetu, and congratulations. I remember the next day of the concert, you were still very excited, and that's, of course, it was understandable after accomplishing so much and so many people involved, and it's really nice to hear that both you and Maria said you had never done anything like this before. So that's how a culmination project should be. So it's very nice to see this again, along with all the other presenters projects. Let's take some questions and comments from the audience.
So, go ahead, John.
Oh, that's fine. I was just going to reiterate what I said before with Maria, but also I think it's a little hard to tell in your presentation, like how many iterations of this project you went through. So I think the people that are successful in this industry are people that persevere and are passionate about things, that want to keep, whatever it is that they want to do, they'll just keep going because they want to do it. And so I commend both of you for that. And I think that's a trait that's going to serve you well in the professional world. And again, I think the idea, it came off in the end. I know you were like super nervous and stuff doing this show, but that's just experience. Like, and eventually, things are going to go wrong in a live show. Things are going to happen unexpectedly. You just do your best to anticipate all that. And I think a lot of it is just experience. So I think, again, congratulations to both of you for pulling this off.
Thank you.
I think it's really clear from both of your presentations that you were super well organized. And just to reiterate on some of the points John was making, I don't have as much experience in the area of live sound, but those qualities of hard work and paying attention to details and doing a lot of prep and organization, those will pay off, and whatever you do, and you clearly have that figured out. One technical question. I know 318 probably wasn't the most ideal room to have the band in. And it looks like, I don't know exactly what that space is, but you've got two flat planes between the bands, where the band's set up. They've got a chalkboard on one side and a concrete wall on the other side. And I'm guessing you probably had some standing waves building up. I would guess, maybe between 100 and 200 hertz. Did you have to do some EQ of the sound and pull down some of the frequencies in that range?
I definitely did EQ a lot of the sounds just to make sure that everything sounded as clear as possible, first and foremost. So yeah, the curtain it's a curtain, the black thing with the concrete wall, because we had to cover up some of the background stuff of 318. But yeah, on the day of the show, we actually put sound blankets covering the entrance because it was so loud that even though I'm all the way over there, I could still hear it, which obviously isn't good for me to hear. So yeah.
Yeah, so I guess you had I guess maybe you had it looks like you had the amp, the bass amp, I guess, was like 90 degrees to the way the musicians were facing.
Yes, both amplifiers were placed against I guess what are the walls or the sides of the frames that you saw in the video.
Right.
That was just the best place for it. As we didn't have a lot of space, we had to maximize our space.
Got it.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Juanito, would you like to add anything to your presentation?
Not really sure what to say about that.
You sure? What's the next step? What are your any plans after you graduate?
My goal is to keep working in live audio and hopefully one day get to be a front of house mixer. So I just want to keep pursuing audio engineering. So yes.
Yeah. I think you have studied under some real professionals here, and I'm happy for that. And all right. So is there any other presenter today from Team Sirena? I'm just curious who Busy Brian is, who's in attendance, and he just turned on the camera. What's your real name?
But no, my name is Brian Pierre Lewis. I'm a part of the MTech game design.
Okay.
I came to witness all of my fellow classmates work today.
How was it?
Yeah, it was great to watch. It was great to witness it, just being here. And I've had class with everyone. I think everyone here, seeing everybody else's improvement, with their culmination, and seeing the journey and where we all were. We all were freshmen together and everything. Seeing everybody's improvement from the beginning to the end is amazing. I had to see it.
Wow. So that's a great closing remarks, actually. When are you taking culmination?
Oh, I did my culmination.
Oh, you did. Oh, this semester. Well,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you are not in my class. I didn't know. Oh, all right. Well, congratulations, and it's great to have you here. All right. Any other thoughts in the end from anybody? I mean, the pandemic isn't quite over yet, so there have been so many challenges this semester. Nonetheless, I have seen many good projects this semester. It's really impressive. Okay. Anyone who would like to add? Okay, well, I guess Professor Huntington and Professor Robbins are clapping, so I guess we can end this session, and another successful semester. And thank you very much for everyone. And thank you, Lucas, for the tech assistance and tech support. Thank you very much. And thank you for coming. And the faculty, we have a grading session coming up in 5 minutes in a different Zoom link that I sent out yesterday. And but anyway, the students and the faculty and staff members, thank you very much for MTech and ENT. Thank you. See you next semester. Okay.